When a new member joins our community, they arrive eyes wide open, filled with excitement and anticipation for the experiences that lay before them. They're primed and eager to explore all the possibilities and value that our community can deliver. That's why this is such a critical moment in their journey to becoming deeply engaged and achieving a true sense of belonging. But understanding the individualized needs of each new community member can be a daunting task, especially at scale. It's for this reason that we created the Send a Survey Question workflow. With this powerful workflow, we can send out survey questions to new members at scale, respond to their answers with personalized messages, and even add them to segments so we can cater to their specific needs. All of these capabilities come together to help make the work of understanding the individual needs of community members at scale a little easier. In this example, we'll build a survey question workflow that triggers when a new member joins our Slack community, sends them a question about what community topics they're interested in, then sends them a personalized follow-up message, and finally adds them to a segment based on their topic of interest. Now let's get started. We'll first configure our trigger by selecting the Slack community we'd like this workflow to run. Next, we'll set up our conditions. In this workflow, we have two: a time delay and filters. We want to make sure that we're learning about our new members' interests as early as possible so we can put them in the right segment for our team to nurture. For this reason, we'll actually turn off the wait condition so new members receive this survey right away. Keep in mind, you can always set a time delay that you feel is best for your particular community. Next, we have our filters condition. Now, if we want to get super specific about which members receive this survey, we can use these filters to make this happen. For example, maybe we only want this survey to go out to new members that are influencers and contributors. We can do that. But in this case, we want to learn about the interests of all new Slack community members. So like the wait condition, we'll turn this off. Next, let's set up our Slack message. We'll select the Slack account we want the message sent from. Then we'll click below to open the message composer and create our personalized message. In this example, we want to learn about which community topics our new community members are most interested in. From here, we will also create our survey question and the answers we'd like our new members to choose from. We'll ask, which community topic are you most interested in? And for the responses, we'll add team building, hosting events, and tech stack. You can add up to 7 answers to this question. Also, keep in mind that currently Common Room is only capable of creating single select survey questions. So, each new member that receives this survey can only provide one response. If we'd like, we can send a test message so we can see how the survey will look in our Slack. Now that our message and survey question are complete, we'll go ahead and click Save. If we'd like, we can add a messaging window to make sure the survey is sent out between specific hours within a time zone, and even select which days we'd prefer the survey to be sent out. Notice that more logic modules have been added to this workflow. These new modules were added for each of the answers to our survey and are organized as branches. Each branch allows us to configure personalized responses for each of the survey answers, as well as add or remove members from a specific segment based on their answer. But before we get into those steps, let's take a quick look at the preceding conditions. The first condition before the branches simply makes sure that a member has answered a survey question before proceeding to the following steps. Now, let's move on to the next condition down one of these branches. This condition will check the member's answer to the survey question, and based on that answer, it will execute on the remaining actions in the branch. We can also choose to turn off this condition. If we do this, the entire branch will be deactivated and will not execute the remaining actions in the branch. Keep in mind, even if we were to turn off a branch for a specific survey answer, the results of the survey in the workflow dashboard will still reflect the results for this answer. If we choose to, we could even turn off all of the branches, meaning no automated follow-up message or segment modification would occur, and we'd simply be able to view the results of our survey in the workflow dashboard. For this example though, let's keep all of the branches activated, since we intend to add these new members to specific segments based on their survey answers. Let's start with the first branch and configure our personalized message action. Like we did earlier in the first messaging action of this workflow, we'll select which Slack account we'd like this message to come from. Then we'll open the message composer. enter a personalized response. This could be whatever you'd like, just type it in here. We'll go ahead and click Save. And then add our messaging window. Next, we'll configure our last action to add members who answer maps to this branch to a segment. To do this, we'll first make sure the action is set to Update Segment. We can set this by using the dropdown. Next, we'll select which segment we'd like to add this member to. Since this branch is for members who said they were interested in team building, we'll select the Interests Team Building segment. Now, you'll notice that this action module says Change Members Status In. Then you choose a segment and add a status. But wait, weren't we adding a member to a segment? Yes we are. If a member is not already in the selected segment, Common Room will add them to it. Now to wrap up this branch, we'll set a status for our newly added member to this segment. Next, we'll simply rinse and repeat for each of the remaining branches, making sure to customize the message and segment for each. All branches are now complete. But before we save our workflow, I want to make note of a few more options we have when it comes to the follow-up messages and segments. We can, of course, choose to simply copy and paste the follow-up message from the first branch to the other branches to keep things simple. Or we can choose to turn off all the follow-up message, which would essentially just drop each of the members into a segment. But I would recommend that we at least send a duplicated message thanking your new members for responding. Finally, we can turn off segment actions on one or all of the branches, which would stop the workflow from dropping members into a segment, and would simply send them a message after they've answered the survey question. Now, with our survey workflow complete, let's go ahead and save it. We can choose to turn this workflow on now, or we can always wait to do this later. Let's hold off for now and just save our changes. We'll be redirected to the workflow dashboard where we can check in on its performance once members have been enrolled. Now let's wrap up this lesson by taking a look at the dashboard that has some members enrolled and shows actual survey results. Okay, starting from the top, we can see performance stats, recent errors, who created the workflow, and when and by who it was last updated. In the next module down are the survey results. We can see how many surveys were sent in total, how many were answered, and how many were not answered. We can also see a breakdown of the results both numerically and graphically in the visualizer bar. Finally, let's take a look at the Members and Workflow module. From here, we can see what members are enrolled in the workflow, along with their organization and any tags attributed to them. We can also see what step of the workflow they are in, as well as the date and time the step occurred. Now let's take a look at filtering. We can quickly filter members by which step they're in the workflow, by state, which indicates if the workflow engaged them successfully or if there was an error that caused it to fail, by their survey answers, and by Common Room's rich member data. One more quick tip. You can click on any of the fields in the Question Answers module above to quickly filter members in the workflow. That's the Send a Survey workflow in Common Room.